Howdy everyone, Poacher here with an Age of Magic video, and in today's video we're going to discuss something that not many people are aware of, or if they are, they're not sure how to get the information because it's not that easy. It is in the game, but to access it, you need to be versing the Guardians of Order. You need to kill the Guardians of Order. They need to be in their Canopic jar. They need to have their passive awakened, and then you need to click on them. There's no other way to find out the information other than that, or if someone's got the knowledge already, to share it with you. So the hidden part of the goos is that their Canopic jars actually have awakenings, and it does influence how the battle plays out, because there have been times where people have posted photos, for example, wondering why, for example, they can't do any damage to the goos. It's normally to do with an awakening on a Canopic jar. So we're going to go through the Canopic jars and their awakenings in this video. To get an awakening on a Canopic jar, you need to awaken the passive of the hero. So for example, for Omphis, you awaken his passive, and then his Canopic jar will then also receive the awakening as well. Starting off with Omphis, we have when an ally misses with an attack or the target dodges, Omphis deals damage equal to 100% of his basic damage to that target. Similar to what he does when he's not in his Canopic jar. It's a very nice ability. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but keep in mind when you're versing characters like Ulfrin, for example, who blind your whole team, Omphis will normally come through and get a little bit of damage on when you use your AoE through Siri, when you use any damaging ability for that matter that misses. Omphis will come through and get a little bit of damage on that target all the same. Can come in clutch sometimes, but yeah, it's just nice to have. Moving on to Scara, and Scara probably has the most interesting ability out of them all. When an enemy attacks the Canopic jar of Scara, there's a 25% chance per every living ally to block the enemy's special ability for one turn. So it's very, very nice. The thing with Scara is, apart from using her in Nightmare raids, she kind of fell off quite quickly. And I don't think a lot of people put a lot of effort into her awakenings because they aren't really needed. They're not necessary for her kit. But I feel like this one may have got overlooked a lot because of that situation. No one was really awakening this ability unless they were a super Kraken whale and wanted to awaken everything. This very much got overlooked. I do wonder if it could have been utilized in any way. Using her in a team when using or fighting an AoE team, for example, they're always going to be hitting her Canopic jar. So I just think it's probably one of the nicer Canopic jar awakenings. Moving on to Sekhmun, and this is the one where people are like, why can't I damage the goos? When Sekhmun's Canopic jar is targeted, it has a 20% chance per allied Canopic jar to ignore incoming damage. Effects from these attacks can stack without limit, doesn't ignore damage when all allies are targeted. So you would be in a situation, and this only came into effect really when clan battles came around, where there is a chance versing 6 goos that you would get 5 Canopic jars on the field and 1 goo alive. And in that situation, it's just nothing happens. There's no damage going out at all. It just is impenetrable. It says doesn't ignore damage when all allies are attacked, but I've still been in that situation where there's nothing that breaks through. So maybe a bug, maybe not, I'm not sure. But yeah, if you're ever wondering why you're not doing damage, check if there's 5 Canopic jars on the field. Check if Sekhmun is one of those Canopic jars. Check if his passive is awakened, and that's your problem. Moving on to Warris. Enemies with sacrificial blood deal 30% less damage to Guardians. With Warris on the team, they almost always have sacrificial blood on them, so they're getting a 30% less damage. It's not a debuff. It's just an aura. So, yeah. All in all, you never really want Warris to be in a Canopic jar. You want him to be alive. The reason for that is because when he's alive, he negates all healing, as long as they have a sacrificial blood debuff on them. So, yeah, I mean, his jar is not as good as his live version. Next, we have Siri. Has a 40% chance per living ally to ignore attacks directed at the whole squad. So when she's in her jar's never going to be affected by AoE abilities. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Next up, we have Nefera. When an allied Canopic Jar explodes, it casts 3 stacks of Sacrificial Blood on the target. For every stack, the enemy receives damage equal to 50% of its basic damage. 1 stack is added if the target uses a special ability. Upon reaching 10 stacks, damage is dealt, and the stack resets to 1. So she gains the ability to apply Sacrificial Blood through the explosion of Canopic Jars. Personally, I'm not sure if that means explosion also means when they resurrect, or if it actually physically has to die for that to happen. No personal experience with this, but that is the awakening for her. And finally, we have Impus. At the end of every round, all allied guards rise from Canopic Jars with 50% HP. So he does this in his normal state as well. Also does it in his Canopic Jar state. So yeah, going forward, I always judged the passive awakening by the awakening on the passive, not including the Canopic Jar. That's how I always distinguished what was worth it or not. Going forward, there may be more valuable. There may be more value, in awakening passives simply because of the Canopic Jar thing. The thing you need to know about the Goos is they are now moving into the older faction territory, but they're still wonderful. They can beat some really strong squads, especially with the introduction of Warris. And Nefera herself is really good on defense in clan battles. I don't see them falling from grace anytime soon. They're not going to be super potent PvP. Like, you're not going to be always using them as an arena team or a tournament team. As the teams progress, as you start to see more clans, as you start to see whatever factions come forward. But as long as Nightmare Raid is the way it is, these characters are always going to have some value until either a new raid comes out or more teams are added to Nightmare Raid. And clan battles, they're always going to have value in clan battles in the sense that you're always going to need teams. So just keep that in mind. The way clan battles is operating at the moment, almost every faction past, I want to say Knights of the Council, excluding some, have really good use. Whether or not you're using them to attack or not, that's fine. Some are really good to just leave on defense. It makes the enemy have to use a kind of mid-meta team to high-meta team to get rid of them. So yeah, as long as clan battles is going to be in the game, as long as it requires the amount of heroes it does, a lot of heroes that you probably overlook are still going to have a lot of value. So yeah, if you want to get a lot more out of your Goos, Canopic Jar, passive awakenings are the way to go. So there you go. There's the information for you. Feel free to take the photos if you want. DM me if you just want the photos. If you don't want to see my ugly mug, you just want the photos, DM me. I'll send them through. Use them however you want. They're completely for you, the community. Do what you want with them. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I will answer it to the best of my ability. And wherever you are in the world, until next time, please take care of yourself.